Welcome to the Clean Library Podcast, where content meets conscience. We believe there are millions of you readers out there desperately searching for a better way to find clean content. Each episode, we will introduce you to a new author of clean books, giving you, your family, and your friends clean options.
Hello and welcome to the Clean Library Podcast. My name is Marcus Williams. Today we're here with special guest Hannah Schoaf-Hardy. Hannah served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Germany. She's written a book about her experience with the hope of helping other young women be more prepared than she was and empowered to serve with confidence. Hannah loves writing, running, pretending to be a mermaid, and going on fun adventures with her husband. Her missionary preparation book for sisters, You Only Mission Once, has recently been accepted by a publishing house, and the plan is to debut the book in the spring of 2025. Welcome, Hannah. Thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. So let's read your Two Truths and a Lie first before we dive into your writing experience. And looking at them here, I'm not sure how I'm going to weave these into the conversation, but we'll see how it goes. So number one, I've seen sharks while scuba diving. Number two, I love to travel and I'll try any new food. And number three, I've ran a marathon. All right. So sharks, traveling and trying new food, and running a marathon. So we'll see at the end if I can guess. And since Brock isn't here with us today, he's actually ahead in the contest, so I'll have a chance to catch up, maybe, possibly, if I can figure it out. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you with your experience as a missionary. Kind of tell the audience what that means, what it's like, because I know lots of different churches have missionaries, but the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has kind of a specific program and how it works. And a lot of people might recognize missionaries, the guys in white shirts and ties, or the girls in dresses on bikes and all that stuff. They might have seen them, but not really know what a mission is or what it means. So tell us about kind of how that experience went and how it led to wanting to write a book.
Yeah. So in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, typically young men are really encouraged to serve. They serve missions or go volunteer, their time and everything for 2 years. And then young women can do the same. And it's just 18 months for the young women. And so, it's just a chance to get to share our love for the gospel, for Jesus, and invite people to learn more if they want. And so I decided to serve a mission. Some people kind of grow up, I feel like, in the church knowing they want to serve. I was a little more unsure. I wasn't sure, but I kind of just felt prompted to in college. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so I decided to serve a mission, serve in Germany, and I loved it, but it took some adjustments for me. And so kind of part of the reason why I want to write a book is, one, I'm passionate about missionary work and I want people to enjoy their missions. And two, I feel like maybe things would have been a little easier if I had been more prepared in some ways. And so it's kind of me just sharing what I feel like would help other, specifically young women, as I serve missions.
For people who aren't familiar, is the location you go a choice that you get to make, or how did you end up in Germany?
So it's kind of a funny story with me, but with the church, you don't pick where you go. And so you can put, like, if you know another language on, like, your application you send to, like, the church leaders. It's not guaranteed where you'll go. And usually the church leaders, they are very, seek the Spirit and are inspired where you get called, but you don't pick where you get called to serve. But with me, I had taken German classes in high school, and I did really want to go to Germany. I understood you can't pick, but I was like, I prayed a lot, like, please send me to Germany. And then somehow I actually got to go to Germany, because I've heard of friends, they're like, please don't send me to this place, and then they get sent there. And so you don't really get to pick, but my prayer was answered for some reason. So
yeah, cool. So when did you first kind of recognize, I probably am not as prepared as I thought I was?
Maybe right at the beginning. But I don't know. I think the unique thing too with missions is I don't know. Usually people kind of share just the highlights because there are a lot of positive, amazing things. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes you don't get into how hard it is because you are adjusting to a new schedule. You're working hard every day, in another culture, which for me, I liked that challenge. But everyone has their different strengths, weaknesses. So I think for me, a big thing was just not realizing like the schedule and yeah, some of the challenges I faced. But
Yeah. So was that high school German enough? or or was it, did you speak as well as you thought you did in high school?
yeah, no. so, so yeah, usually in the church when missionaries get called to speak like a foreign language, they go to it's called the Missionary Training Center for usually like 6 weeks. It varies, and then they get language training. But since I somehow tested well enough that they said my German's good enough, so I just went to the MCC for 2 weeks and didn't do a lot of language training. So I was like, oh, I got this. And then I go to Germany. Yeah, I didn't understand a lot for like the first few weeks, couple months. And then after like 3 months, you start getting the hang of it. But yeah, my grammar was decent from German, but
Yeah.
speaking and listening, it took a lot of just immersion, like being there in Germany.
Yeah. And there, a lot of other people your age who are in college, do you feel like um, they got ahead of you because they stayed in college, or do you think that, do you feel like the mission prepared you in a way that gave you experiences that maybe helped you in the, with the future, even though it took that, you're an 18-month break from school?
Yeah, for me, I think it's definitely worth it to take that 18-month break. I've always been really confident, I guess, in my academic abilities, but for me, the mission was, I mean, obviously there's a lot of spiritual things that happen, but for me, I grew a lot socially, and I think I
Hmm.
really needed that to be successful with other things I'm doing in life. And you just learn so much about people and working with people and getting to see people's life stories and learn from others on the mission. So it was completely worth it to have that 18-month break.
Cool. So was it while you were on your mission that you said, I need to write a book about this, or was it after you got home and had time to kind of think about it and stuff?
Probably more after I got home. Just yeah, because as soon as I got back home, I wanted to visit Germany again because I loved being in Germany. But yeah, I had the thought like I really want to write about this and help other young women because I did love my mission. It just took a while for me to get there, so I want other missionaries to be able to more fully, I guess, embrace it more easily. But yeah, so after basically.
Yeah. So have you always wanted to write, and this just happened to be the topic you decided to write on, or was this whole inspiration for this book, is it a completely kind of out of the blue thing for you?
Yeah, I think I've always told my family like I want to be a writer. I want to write a book. So I've always loved writing. Did short stories, whatever, growing up. I was an English major in college. So yeah, it kind of fit like because the mission, passion for the mission, passion for writing, it kind of came together with this book.
Yeah. So how you said in the bio that you've been accepted by a publishing house. Walk us through that experience, because I know that can be a, a tough experience for a lot of new authors.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. Yeah, basically, I try to do all the steps what I've learned at writing workshops and things. Like I did a few rough drafts of my book. Then when I felt good about it, I sent it to beta readers and got their kind of critiques back. Then polished it more, and then I actually submitted it to Cedar Fort out here in Utah, if anyone's heard of them, and they rejected it. But then I was still like, I want to still get this done. So then I was like, I'm going to self-publish because I've started learning about self-publishing. So then did a little more work on my book, and then I sent it to an editor I found, and it
Hmm.
turns out she freelances, but she also works for Cedar Fort, and so she actually recommended like, hey, Cedar Fort, reconsider her book, and they did. So they've actually recently been like, oh, we're actually going to offer you this, yeah, we'll accept your book and publish it. So it's kind of crazy how it worked out. But
Cool. So, so kind of that up and down and unexpected contact that made it happen. That's cool. And I
Yeah.
think that's a um, especially when you're going with traditional publishing. One thing that we've heard from a lot of people is that, I mean, you have to send in the cold query letters. That's just the the business. But if you have, we've talked to people who entered a contest who happen to have an editor on from a publishing house, or like your experience, that developing, getting to know people in just the publishing community, those contacts, just like any other business,
Mhm.
contacts are really where it's at. Who you know
Yeah.
helps a lot. So that's a good reminder, because I think a lot of authors are pretty introverted by nature, just because,
Mhm.
like, that's why they want to sit behind a desk and write instead of
Yeah.
being um so it's important to join those groups and put yourself out there and meet the new
Mhm.
people, because you never know, like, which contact is going to be the one that makes it happen for you.
Mhm.
So are in that publishing experience, is that like just happened that they accepted, or have you already started working with them?
It just happened like last week. I got the email, so yeah, filling out
Cool.
the contract and everything. So it's brand new. I'm very excited.
Very cool. So we'll be interested to see how your experience is working with them, um, especially since you were going the self-publishing route and actually started with doing your own editing, paying for your own editor and doing all those things.
Mhm.
And now suddenly you'll have a publishing house behind you to help you do that. So you'll be able to see both sides, which is kind of cool and unusual for a lot of people. Um, so if someone who's not planning on going on a mission, maybe he's not a member of the church, or just kind of that age group, is there um, things that they could learn to help them prepare for college or life or family, from your book? And you think there's a wider audience?
Yes, I like it's definitely for young women preparing for mission, but also kind of back in my mind was thinking of, yeah, friends and family back home, maybe of other faiths who could read this and be like, oh, this is like what an LDS mission is like. And then also just for, I would say, any young woman or woman in general, I feel like I have principles just to help you live a better life or follow Christ. And so I think it's applicable, yeah, beyond my kind of target audience.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when you release a book and you think you have a very specific targeted audience, and I think yours is pretty specific. But a
Mhm.
lot of times, the people who end up reading it and really liking it it's a surprise. Like, you're not the people that you would expect or or think. So um, hopefully, those of you out there listening will keep an open mind, even if you're not in a position where you're looking to be a missionary or go on some sort of ministering service type thing. This, if you're interested in um, and correct me if I'm off base here, but if you're interested in just how can you focus your life more on your beliefs, on Christ, on the gospel, this may be something you want to look into.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, that's um, so. What was your biggest challenge when you decided, okay, I'm going to write this book, to actually finishing it? What were the hurdles and challenges that you had to overcome to get it done?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I'd say there's a couple of things. I mean, part of it is, I don't know, it might sound kind of silly, but just realizing like I have all these ideas and stuff and it's great, but like I need to actually just sit down and physically write,
Hmm.
and actually put in the work. It's not just gonna like magically appear or whatever. So like realizing like, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's kind of more time and effort and learning than I realized, part of that. And then another part is like with the beta reader stage and just in general, like learning to accept feedback and criticism, because I'm a little
Yeah.
bit of a perfectionist. So sometimes it's hard to hear like, oh, this paragraph was boring or something. But ultimately, like that kind of feedback can really help you polish your finished product or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. So with your beta readers, how did you find them?
So I just reached out to some friends who had served missions, and so I wanted
Okay.
some like return missionaries, they've experienced it to be like, oh, is this advice actually useful? I reached out to one or two young women who hadn't served yet. Um, so just kind of reached out in my circle, a few people in my acquaintances. But
And do you find that they were willing to be direct and honest with you, or even though like you knew them and they were friends, or did you have to like push them to no, I want to hear the critique, I need you to be honest with me?
I feel like they were all pretty honest, actually. I mean,
Good.
I don't know. I feel like they're pretty honest and gave while still being really supportive. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge with beta readers, is you want someone who like you can't ask your mom to be a beta reader because she's going to tell you it's awesome. Right. um, but you also want people who are going to give you valuable feedback, that you can actually use and take away, and aren't just going to be just critical of everything and you need to do it my way and I would do it this way if it was me. Like it, and as you were receiving the feedback, did you find it that there was some that you were like, yeah, okay, but I'm not going to take that advice, and others that was it difficult for you to decide which criticisms to take and which ones to ignore?
Yeah, sometimes it's a little tricky because I'm kind of perfectionist, so it's kind of hard to hear like fix this. But after giving it thought, I feel like some edits I was accepting, and some I was like, I think I'm okay not to change it. So I just kind of did what I felt,
Hmm.
fit my manuscript style of writing.
So how did you schedule or find the time or make the time to write when you've got work and
Mm.
life and school and all the other stuff going on?
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I'm maybe a little bit lucky in this situation. I just work part time,
Hmm.
so I feel like kind of more time maybe than others, and just supportive husband and stuff, and just I don't know. I'm very determined. Once I say I will do something, sometimes
Yeah.
I get like too fixated on things. I need better at balancing everything. But no, I just said this is what I'm gonna do, and then I did everything to try to make it happen. So.
To make it happen. Cool. Um, that's because that can be a challenge, right? When life gets in the
Mhm.
way, one of the first things that you can push to the side is, oh, this book, I'll get it finished someday. Like I'll work on it. There's no deadline because it's your own project. It's not like homework
Mhm.
or an assignment at school where you have to have it in by a certain date. So it
Mhm.
does take a lot of um, discipline, I guess is the word, to actually sit down and set your own goals and deadlines. Um, did you have were you part? I think you mentioned, were you part of a writing group?
Yes, yes. So there's a writing group here at the Spanish Word Library. We meet every couple weeks. So yeah, kind of had them support, and then I go to a conference every year that also lots of networking classes that kind of taught me a lot as well.
So, what are the pros and cons for you in being in a writing group?
Uh, I feel like it's mostly prose for me. I don't know. Our writing groups, I feel like maybe a little more chill. I don't know than others. We just kind of, if there's some writing topic on our mind, we'll discuss it, or we'll just read our work and get feedback. It's pretty flexible, and I feel like it's just more than anything, it's just nice to feel like there's other people who are interested, passionate about what you're interested in, like in writing, going
Yeah,
through the same struggles. So yeah.
yeah, and I feel like with just the topic of your book is leads it to being clean in the
Yes.
like I don't see that it was a probably not a challenge to keep it clean when what you're talking about is the gospel and doing missionary work and trying to
Yeah.
inspire other missionaries. But I also know, uh, as a missionary, you experience things that probably weren't, that you probably saw things and talked to people who were experiencing really hard things. And um, so did you talk about some of those experiences in your book, and how did you decide to really tackle them when those kind of difficult topics?
Yes, I'm trying to think. I did include, yeah, some stories from the mission people we taught. But yeah, I don't think anything was too like, I don't know, like not clean or anything. It was more just sharing stories of like maybe when we weren't successful or someone did stop meeting with us, just to be like, I wanted to be honest. I wanted to like share all the beautiful, amazing things about a mission, but then I wanted to like say like there are some hard things too. So I tried to balance that and still have young women be excited to serve because that's the goal.
Have a realistic expectations, but not scare them off.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, do you have any other books that you are already working on or in the back of your mind, or you just focus on this one right now?
I've just been focused on this one. I do have some ideas I'm excited about that once this one gets published and things, I'd love to write a second book. So
So, are you going to dive into fiction, or are you going to stick with kind of the self-help, inspirational?
yeah, I don't know. I have so much respect for like fiction authors because I feel like I don't have the skills yet to. But I'd love to. I have some fantasy ideas, fairy tale stuff. But I've also thought of just doing self help, like dating is another topic I love.
Hmm.
That would also be younger audience for me, I think. Or other things that affect women, women's issues. So I don't know. Still brainstorming. But
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely think having young adult children that dating is a topic that it would be there's so much out there. Like
mm-hmm,
there's so many podcasts or and social media influencers and stuff that give just a lot of bad advice on on dating
mm-hmm,
and relationships. I can see a definite market or for an or a need for young people to get a different perspective than what they're getting on
mm-hmm,
TikTok and online and stuff.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, I can see
mm-hmm.
that as a good way to go and a good topic to work on. And who knows, as you get deeper in with working with your publisher and propose some ideas to them, maybe they'll be willing to go for some book ideas in advance. That'd be kind of cool. So as part of the contract with them, is there an audiobook included in that, or is that something that you would discuss with them later, or you're not even there yet?
I've wanted to do an audiobook, but yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm not sure what's included, not included, but I would love to do an audiobook just because I feel like so many people kind of my age, a little younger, love audiobooks. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and the great thing, especially when you're working with the publisher, if they're willing to include that in the package, that that the biggest hurdle for an audiobook is the cost. And so if the publisher's
Mhm.
willing to do that for you, it's one I think that's one of the biggest pros and arguments for going with a traditional publisher. So we'll see how that plays out. It depends on the agreement and contract and everything, of course. And I can't speak for Cedar Fort, but um, yeah, hopefully that works out for you and is a way to go. Because I agree, it's just there's when you don't have one, there's a whole segment of readers that you're
Yeah.
just missing. It just
Hmm.
will not pick up a book, but they'll listen to a
Hmm.
book, and I don't blame them because I listen to way more books than I read, than physical books as well, just because I'm so busy. That it's definitely a market that you want to capture, and I think it's a great topic for that market as well. Um,
Yeah.
is there something that you wish you would have known before you started writing?
That's a good question. I mean, there's so much I didn't know. I kind of just went to a conference or two and then just kind of dove into it. I don't know. I guess actually I was thinking about this the other day, kind of maybe more positive thing, but just how many people are willing to help you and how you really can network and learn so much from other authors, even in another genre, and just that there are resources out there. You just kind of have to put yourself out there and take initiative, but there really are a lot of people willing to help. So,
Yeah, I love that, and I think that's very true. I mean, there are a lot of paid services out there that will help teach you how to publish, how to write, and all that stuff, and those are great. Like have no problem with someone selling their expertise. But I think you're right. There are a lot of people who are just willing to share their experiences, mentor you, help you.
Mhm.
Um, and I see that, and not just in writing, but just kind of in the artistic field in general. You don't have that spirit of competition. I feel like artists are like, there's room enough for all of us. Your art's a little different than my art. We both have
Mhm.
people who are going to love our art. We both have our audience. There may be crossover, or there may not, but there's no downside to making sure someone else is successful. Like it,
Mhm.
it doesn't hurt you at all. Um, and I don't know. I've found that as well in this community, especially. Um, I don't think I've ever met a writer or someone in this community that it's feels threatened by other authors or doesn't want to share anything because that would create competition. Like it just doesn't exist, which is so refreshing
Mhm.
compared to compared to other businesses.
Yes.
Just so nice. Um, and especially as we've really dive deep into this topic of clean books, the support for clean authors and just wishing them success is huge. Um, even though it's a much smaller um, group of authors,
Mhm.
like we haven't met one yet who didn't wish everyone else complete success, which I think is really cool. So that's great advice, and hopefully something the people out there, maybe you're listening and you want to write and you think you're all alone or you can't afford the help, you can't afford the information, like just check out events near you, or whether it's a
Mhm.
convention or a free. I know we host at the beginning of the year, a bunch of authors locally hosted an author, we called it an author's alley day, where we all gave presentations on our experience and we sat down and had lunch with people who were wanted to and gave our advice, and like it was really cool. And there wasn't one person we asked to be involved that didn't want to do that. So if you're out there and you think that you have to figure this out on your own, you don't. There are tons of people willing to share what they've learned so that you don't have to go through all
Yes.
the hard knocks that they may have had to go through and the years of trial and error that they had to go through. So that's very cool. Um, when when you were planning, kind of going back to your process of writing, were you are you someone who just kind of thinks of your ideas and they flow, or did you have an outline? Are you the organized outliner type? Or are you a pantser, as they say?
Yeah, I would say I'm not super organized. I don't know. I did have this idea while I was in college, so I wrote like a few experiences down, kind of started writing, but I was like, I don't know. I'm crazy about school, so I was like, after I graduate, maybe I'll do more. So then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So then once I like decided, okay, I'm gonna do this now. Yeah. Then I just started writing down stories and principles. It just kind of came together, I guess. Yeah. I didn't have too much of an outline, but yeah.
Yeah, so it seemed to come together and flow for you as you wrote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's more like my process. And but once I start a book, I find that like that's all I'm thinking about all the time,
Mhm.
or I'm driving or in the shower or exercising, whatever. It's like I'm planning that next chapter is what
Mhm.
happens next. And I know most of mine are fiction, so I'm trying to figure out what happens to my characters and stuff. But I think it's probably a similar process for you. You know, what stories are going to really drive home that principle I'm trying to teach right now, or
Mhm.
what experiences really are really going to be helpful to the reader at this point, and all that kind of thing. So, did you have a journal or a diary on your mission that helped you with writing the book?
Yes, I love journaling. So I had a couple journals. There's one journal I had where I just wrote down what I was grateful for or something positive every day.
Okay.
And so that was cool. So I used that a lot to look back and be like, oh yeah, what was cool about this experience? Because I did write a lot in that.
Mhm.
So yeah, my journal helped kind of remember. And then the emails I sent home to my family too with some of the details. So
Okay. So you had a copy of all those. That's cool. And um, the gratitude, so like a gratitude journal. That's a
mm-hmm.
cool idea because, like you said, it can be very difficult. There's a lot of hard experiences, and it's important how you focus. And
Mm-hmm.
both sides are important. You learn from the negative, but also seeing the positive and being grateful is important too. So that's cool. So, are there are there any authors out there, clean authors who maybe fiction, maybe more inspirational self-help that you would recommend to our listeners?
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna say her name wrong. I wish I knew how to pronounce it, but she's a friend of mine. She's awesome. Anika Shampoys. But she's written Walter Times Two. It's published. You guys can search it. It's like super clean romance, like set at BYU, kind of time travel, mystery, romance. Really fun. So I recommend her, and I think she's definitely working on a couple more books. Might have another book out too. So she's someone I would definitely recommend.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're building a great list of authors. The other day I was just on Facebook, and someone posted, "Where can I find clean books?" And I was like, "Listen to the podcast."
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just the books themselves. It's getting to know the authors. I think that's what I enjoy the most, is talking to authors like you and getting to know you. And I don't know about you, but I'm much more willing to read a new book if I feel a connection to the author.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whether it's someone who's experienced same things, maybe had the same job, whatever it is, whatever that connection is, I feel like I'm gonna enjoy that book better because I have that connection there. So I
Yes.
think that's
Mm-hmm.
great. Um, so is there anything else that you uh, would like people to know about you or about your book, coming out next year? But as people get excited and ready to read that, is anything else you would like to tell people about you?
Yes. I'd say yeah, a little bit more about my book, or I guess just my goal with my book. I
Yeah.
think I kind of mentioned, but yeah, I was really trying to like kind of balance between like share a little bit what's hard so they can be prepared, but also share a lot of the good so that young women can be excited to serve, because it really is a life changing, amazing spiritual experience. And then the other thing I was trying to do, because I do have a younger target audience in mind, I want my book to be entertaining. Like I don't
Yeah.
want it to be boring, so I really tried to kind of make it fun with the stories I shared. And I was also like very honest about mistakes I made. So I'm hoping that'll help, me be authentic, because I wanted to be real, and I also wanted to send the message that you don't have to be perfect to be a missionary or to do God's work. Because I think especially sisters feel that perfectionism a lot, and elders too. But just kind of reassuring everyone like, hey, you're good enough to serve, you can do this. And yeah, just hoping people will enjoy reading my book and find a lot of uplifting things in it.
Very cool. And frankly, that advice is great advice for anyone of any age, that you don't have to be perfect to be a tool in God's hands to do
Mm-hmm.
God's work. It's like he will qualify you for the work he needs you to do. And you just have to be willing to have the faith to do it,
Mm-hmm.
to jump in there and do it. So very cool, very cool. All right. Well, we didn't talk about scuba diving. Travel just to Germany. They don't have a lot of crazy food, good food,
Mm-hmm.
um, or running marathons. Okay, so just to remind everybody, I've seen sharks while scuba diving. Number two, I love to travel and I'll try any new food. And number three, I've ran a marathon. Hmm. So, I mean, if depending on where you've scuba dived, you said you like to travel, but seeing a shark is very, very possible. Um, Try any new food. I'm game for that. I'm gonna say you have not run a full marathon. I'm gonna say that's the lie.
Okay, false. Yeah, I've ran a marathon. Husband and I saw sharks while scuba diving in Costa Rica. But yeah, the lie is, so I love traveling, but I do
Okay.
not like trying new foods. So that's the
Ah.
lie, because I think I'm a very adventurous person, but not with food. I just hate trying new food. I get anxious. I just love pizza and ice cream. So anyway, trying new foods is always a challenge. Even when like, places have great food, I just get nervous. So
All right. So you threw in a twist, a half true,
yeah.
half lie there. Okay. Well, at least I didn't fall further behind since Brock wasn't here to guess, but so that's a good thing. And I don't know if you've met our scorekeeper. This is Steve. So
Okay.
we'll stay the same for this week, and he'll be happy to know that he didn't miss out on me catching up with him. But Hannah, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a lot of fun. Learned a lot, and your book sounds great. And I think it'll help a lot of people, whether they are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints thinking of mission, or maybe they belong to a different religion or sect and are just wondering, looking for some advice on how to live a more Christ-like life. It sounds like your book will have some great advice there for them, and love to hear about your publishing journey as you work with the publishing house. And congratulations again. And just remind everyone, the book is scheduled to come out sometime spring of 2025. So thank you for listening, and please share, subscribe, tell your friends about the podcast. This is a great place to find new clean authors, get to know them, and books that you can trust. So thank you, and we'll catch you next time on the Clean Library Podcast.